Our next presenter has been a researcher of UFOs for 20 years. He believes that they constitute the greatest mystery of all time. I don't think we'd disagree with that, would we? No. He's the author of several volumes of history and speculative book about the future. His latest work is UFOs from the 21st Century Mind, as a fresh treatment of the entire subject of UFOs. In it, he discusses the important sightings, the encounters, the politics, the cover-up, ancient aliens, the bizarre science, disclosure, and offers advice on being both critical and open-minded in today's world. He hosts his own weekly radio show on KGRA, is a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM, and is featured in the new History Channel documentary series Hangar One. In addition to his research, he has his own publishing company that publishes innovative books for authors from around the world. So he's helping spread the word for other people as well, which is fantastic. He is a very busy man. He's one of the most sought-after UFO speakers in the field these days. And if you follow him on Facebook, you'll know what I'm talking about. Dude, you are everywhere. Oh my God. I mean, he'll post a picture, I'm in, I don't even know, 2 days later he's in another city, 17,000 miles away. Just fantastic traveler, having the adventure, learning the truth, and telling us about it. So please join me in welcoming Richard Dolan.
Thank you, Forrest. Thanks a lot, thank you. Hi, I love coming here, and thank you for that really great introduction. And yeah, I feel like I don't really know how I got into this life. I mean, I talk about it enough, and I thought 20 plus years ago I would explore this subject for a couple of months. That's really literally what I thought, and then it's 22 years, it just goes, it just sucks you in and doesn't let you out. The thing that I do, I've never known how to characterize myself as a researcher compared with other people, because I really am not much, I'm not really an investigator. I don't really do a specific case, and I mean, I've done some, just because some of them come to me, but what I really like to do is just sit lazy on my couch reading things and think, oh, that's a good idea, let's write about this, and that's another good idea. And then, well, that's actually not true. I like doing historical research and finding things out that way, but I've never really known how to characterize what I do. I have a curious mind. I like to ask questions, and one question leads to another, and the next thing I know, I'm in this field, and for reasons that I still haven't really figured out, people sometimes want to hear what I have to say, and I think, really? Because, I mean, is that not the most boring subject that I have here? The extraterrestrial hypothesis, exploration of an idea. Last night we had Linda Moulton Howe talking about an alien taxonomy and the detailed situation of these various races. I'm thinking, I don't really add into that. And then we have Whitley Strieber talking utterly genius, brilliant, profound statements about the nature of humanity and the soul and these connections with other beings, and the effects of meditation and contact with other entities. I'm like, oh yeah, well, a little bit, I guess I talked about that. And then we have Jim Marrs talking about Pat Price remote viewing aliens in Alaska and Africa and Australia, and I think, this is way more interesting than anything that I'm going to present to you. I just think I'm glad they're not passing out tomatoes when you come into the door, because I just feel like I don't have that much to present. So here's my remote clicker. I will say, because this is going to be so boring, you just get ready to take a nap if you want, it's cool. But I am working on a non-UFO book right now, and this will annoy the people who want the third volume. So this is the story of my life. So I wrote the first volume of UFOs in National Security State 16 years ago. And people then said, oh, that's great, where's the second volume? And I'm like, oh, right, I gotta do another volume. So then, many years later, I came up with this subsequent follow-up to that, and that took the story another couple of decades. And then, of course, that's not to the present day, so there's a third volume waiting. And then I didn't do the third volume. I wrote another book called AD After Disclosure, which I'm very glad I wrote. I had a great co-author. Thanks. And that's a speculative book. Unlike the histories, which try to map out very, hopefully, as clearly and accurately as possible the history of the phenomenon, the nature of the cover-up, the attempts to end secrecy, basically a history of this phenomenon. AD After Disclosure is an attempt to look in the future and just ask one question, two questions. Can disclosure happen? And if it does happen, what next? How would it transform our world? And that was a fantastic exploration with a really great co-author, Bryce Zabel. And then I thought, well, I'll get back to volume 3 of my history. And then that didn't happen. I ended up writing UFOs for the 21st Century Mind, which again, I'm glad I wrote that book too. That's an overview of the whole topic. I feel it's the best overview you could read. If you've never read a book on UFOs, I wrote it for that. But I found that experienced students have also appreciated it because it's fresh ideas. I wanted a definitive, sophisticated overview of this whole crazy subject in one volume, and that was my goal. So then I thought, great, now I'm going to get back to volume 3 of UFOs and National Security State, because I got people actually sending me hate mail now because I haven't gotten to it. And I thought, I'm going to do it, but then I thought, oh, no, I have another book that I want to write, which is true, which I'm writing now, which is a history of false flag operations, if you're familiar with false flags. So I'm doing that now. There hasn't been a history of this done, and for those of you who don't know, I'm from New York City, I'm Brooklyn. My dad was a New York City cop. I grew up in a family of cops, and my dad, after he retired, worked at the World Trade Center. He had Tuesdays off when 9/11 happened. I didn't know that fact all day long. I mean, phones are out, if you remember. He shared his job with a very nice man who was killed that day. And that's not what prompted me to study 9/11 and other false flags. It took me about a year of people haranguing me, saying, you have to look at 9/11. And eventually I did, and that became a kind of secondary obsession of mine. And what I decided that I wanted to do, though, is to trace the history of that very nasty phenomenon, that of false flags. In other words, when a government or intelligence agency or some other organization does something really terrible, like blow up buildings or kill people, then blame it on another organization or other group, like terrorists, for example. A lot of that happening these days. And what I wanted to do is to show that this is a genuine phenomenon that has its own history, its own trajectory. And that's what I'm doing right now. And it's absorbing me. It's a completely all-encompassing obsession, and I'm hoping to have that done sometime later this year. We'll see. So in between, I haven't lost interest in UFOs, not in the least, and I'm asking myself a variety of questions that come to mind. One, as Forrest mentioned in the intro, I consider this the greatest mystery of our time. I really do. I'm not really sure we'll ever really get to the bottom of it, to be honest with you, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't make the attempt. I think we're dealing with something that is a little bit, probably a couple of orders of magnitude beyond our capability. Doesn't mean we can't get to some level of comprehension. So I want to explore some of these ideas and probably start off by something that I'm going to conclude with, which was Hillary Clinton's interview with Jimmy Kimmel a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, you saw it. And if you're not, I'll just say that Jimmy Kimmel has interviewed Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, and now Hillary Clinton, in all within the last year or so. And in each of those interviews, all of which are highly scripted, there is no just off-the-cuff remarks on these. As I'm sure you realize, you don't have off-the-cuff remarks when you're talking to a president or Hillary Clinton. That doesn't happen. So he asked each one of these 3 people about UFOs, right, on this show. Bill Clinton gave an interesting answer, Barack Obama gave a rather interesting answer, and then Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, gave the most interesting answer. My opinion. So because what she did, this is just 2 weeks ago, she corrected him in a sense. And she said, well, the nomenclature now is not really UFO, but UAP, unexplained aerial phenomena. She actually said this on Jimmy Kimmel. Now, if he was an actual journalist, he would have said, whoa, stop right there. UAP. I don't mean to insult him by that. He's a comedian. But if you were doing genuine journalism, you'd say, where's that phrase coming from, Mrs. Clinton? Like, who's discussing this? Maybe she just got it from John Podesta, her campaign manager, who's very interested in this. But she's still tossing out this very technical term. And it's an accurate term. And it's one that's much less value-laden than UFOs. And it shows, it's a demonstration to the world that she does know something about this. And then she gave kind of a lame discussion right after that, saying, well, we'll find out if there's something there. And if there's something there, I'll look into it, as long as it doesn't affect national security. The same tired stuff that they all say, but the fact is, there's outstanding evidence to show that Hillary Clinton knows a great deal about UFOs. She was, after all, 20 years ago, spending time with Lawrence Rockefeller during his attempt to get the Clinton White House to talk openly about UFOs. This is the Rockefeller Initiative, and Hillary Clinton was photographed with Lawrence Rockefeller at his ranch in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, holding a book by the astronomer Paul Davies, Are We Alone in the Universe? So clearly we know what their topic of discussion was.